Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to this space. Today's video is going to be about a topic that I've sort of been perceiving around me at the moment in my life, and I think it's happening everywhere in the world, and that is how the generation that I'm a part of and the ones below are perhaps not the first, but on the level in which this is happening, the first to dive into it this deep, is understanding how our childhood conditioning and the actions and choices of our parents affected us as children and have kind of shaped who we are today. And it's a big conversation, I think, but the point of this video is not to convince you of any which belief. It's more to just discuss and remind us that there is room for both accountability and understanding, and that there is no need for blame when it comes to this. So what I'd like to talk about as well are the concept of the two workshops that I host. So one is called The Power of Perspective and the other is called The Trauma Behind Your Triggers. Now, these are both workshops that really dive deep within and give us the tools to navigate everyday life a little bit more consciously. And so both of the concepts in these workshops, I feel, can help us balance the understanding and the awareness of our childhood, of the choices our parents made, of the conditioning, the school we went to, where we grew up, what choices were made for us, perhaps that we didn't get a say in, etc. The concepts in the workshops would really allow us to balance what we're finding there, as opposed to casting blame or, allowing it to create this box or this space in which, well, that's just who I am. Because that saying is so far from the truth. You are exactly who you want to be. You get to shape who you are. The choices that you make decipher who you are, and your past, while important and while it has shaped you, yes, is not definitive of who you are and who you will remain to be in this lifetime. And so I want to talk about perspective now. Understanding and being able to pinpoint what actions your parents or your grandparents or your teachers or your friends growing up, what actions they made and how they've affected you now. Being able to pinpoint that is really, really powerful. And it's really, really easy to then go, well, that's their fault. I am this way because of them, casting the blame. But this is kind of about awareness and then taking accountability and going, okay, so that happened. This is how I responded. There is nothing wrong with that. But I don't want to continue to respond to situations in my life like that moving forward. And so the first way that we can overcome that sort of period of getting stuck in blame is to shift our perspective. Now, the Power of Perspective is a really fun workshop that I love to run, and it's all about being able to see from somebody else's perspective and to also understand your own, to strip away the beliefs that were placed upon you and go, okay, what is it that I actually believe? What is it that aligns with me? And what is it that I truly feel in this moment, or towards this person or towards that situation, etc. And so being able to jump from your perspective to perhaps your parents or your friends or your teachers, not to make excuses for them, not to validate what they did, but to seek understanding from their perspective of perhaps why they would have acted like that, or what could have been meant other than how we took it. Something is not, what we say isn't always received in the way that we had said it, if you know what I'm talking about. And so I think really sitting with yourself and sitting with what you think and what you believe and what you feel and understanding what truth feels like within your body is super important, because once we know our own truth and we're solid in our own truth, it creates so much room and space for us to be able to understand somebody else's truth and accept somebody else's truth, even if it doesn't align with our own. And so that then walks into the next topic, trauma behind your triggers, is that a lot of things that are happening in our immediate life, so a lot of our relationships, our conversations, our interactions, things that trigger us in those moments quite often are not completely about what was being said or done in that moment, but rather what it made us feel and what that feeling reminds us of from our past. Where there's trauma, where there's a trigger, where there's something that is within us that we're holding on to, that we might not even know about, that is not aligned with our belief anymore, and that is ready to be brought to the surface and worked through and released to make space for what we believe now and what we want now, and where we're walking and where we're headed and the direction that our journey is taking us on. And so I think the two key things here are absolutely pinpoint, if you can, the moments and the actions that in your past have created a certain belief or have created a certain mechanism within yourself or response within yourself. Find those areas that you feel really triggered in your life. Pay attention to those triggers and really sit with yourself and go, okay, what is this feeling? Where does it come from? When was the first time I felt this feeling? Maybe I'm feeling what this person is saying is making me angry, but what it's really triggering is that I'm feeling like they're telling me I'm not enough, and that might make you angry. When was the first time in my life that I felt like I wasn't enough? And go back to that point and assess that situation if you can, and without judgment, understand what is happening around you. Sorry, I have ads on the TV behind me. Understand what is happening around you in that memory, in that moment, and work through that emotion by changing perspectives, by stepping into the shoes of those around you in that moment. Maybe it was mum, maybe it was dad, maybe it was grandma or grandpa, maybe it was a teacher at school, in a class you really, really wanted to do well in, and you just didn't get those marks, and that teacher was like, maybe it's just not for you. Maybe you really, really loved music and instruments and expressing yourself in that way, but a teacher told you just don't have what it takes. You're just not talented. You don't have that natural born gift. And understand or drop into that moment and go, okay, well, perhaps what they were telling me, perhaps what they were saying in that moment wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was their way of saying, hey, maybe you need to put more work in, or maybe you need to put your own take on this. Maybe walk a path that somebody else hasn't walked to get to where you're going, sort of thing. And sometimes we don't really understand the power of our words, and I think that as individuals we should all be trying our best. We should all be seeking to understand. We should all be cautious of how what we say might affect another person, but sometimes things are interpreted in a way that we would never have imagined because of what that person has been through. And so when you're dropping back into these experiences, feel that emotion and feel that rawness in the vulnerability of what you're feeling, and understand it, shift your perspective, and feel that emotion through your body before releasing it. You can't just go, okay, I understand that situation, it's not serving me anymore, goodbye. It doesn't work quite like that. It would be so much easier if it did, but feeling those emotions is super important. so that we understand what that feels like. And when that trigger is made in a conversation in our immediate life, we're able to go, actually, that is what's being triggered right now. It's not necessarily what this person is saying. What am I feeling? Okay, I'm feeling like I'm not enough. And then express that. Hey, what you just said is kind of making me feel like, I'm not enough. Is that what you meant by what you said? And create those conversations, because it allows our communication to be stronger. It allows our understanding of our emotions to be stronger. It allows our experiences to really give us the opportunity to grow and to change and evolve, because you can do all of the reflection that you like, and you can pinpoint every moment in your childhood, in your youth, in your teenage years, in your early adulthood, that have created these particular traumas and feelings and insecurities within yourself, and you can be able to pinpoint all of them. But if you cannot work through them, and if you cannot make peace with the devils, and you work with your demons to grow now, that's where stagnancy happens. That's where the dense emotions come in, depression, anxiety. We see so much of it these days, and it's because we're not taught these things. We're not taught how to tap in and to feel and to communicate that. It's primarily in women. We're taught to cross your legs, close your mouth, just let it all play out, sort of thing. And it's not just women who get taught that. We're taught that from children. Children should be seen and not heard. It's a really unbalanced dynamic. We're not taught how to feel these things. We're not taught how to, take those really energetically charged points in our life and transmute them and transform them into this growth, into this healing, into this, ability to expand and learn and become better than, because no one wants to be triggered. No one wants to sit in discomfort and be triggered. Sure, it's known. You know how you're going to respond. You can sit there and say, that's just who I am. Or you can go, okay, I am this way because of the things that have happened to me. I've responded in this way and I've become this person. There are certain things about this person that are not aligned with me that I'd really like to let go of, and I'd really like to build, out of, and to grow and transform out of. And this is how you do it. You go to those moments, you pinpoint it. The work is not done there. You feel the emotion. You allow yourself in moments of being triggered within a conversation to go, you know what? I'm feeling this way. And sometimes the other person may not take that very well, and it may become this really difficult, dense, heavy conversations. But those conversations are really where growth happens. And it's important to understand that the triggering and the emotion and the intense emotion that we feel in those particular moments isn't always because of that situation. So taking a breath, coming back into yourself, looking at that person that you're talking to and going, okay, what are we both feeling? What are we both trying to communicate right now? Can we do that safely? Is there space for us both to do that? Or do we need to, take a breather and come back to this? There is nothing wrong with that either. I've been having a lot of difficult conversations myself lately, and sometimes I find myself being like, I wish I was having this conversation at a different time when I was more equipped with my own emotions to be able to respond in the way that I want to respond right now, and just saying, hey, I'm doing my best. I don't have what I need to have right now. And it's important that if we communicate that and that other person respects that, to then respect coming back to that and being able to talk about that, down the track the next day, an hour later, whatever that might look like for you. But yeah, I think that I wanted to have this conversation. I wanted to put those little things in there, change of perspective. It's super handy. Like I spoke about in the start, there's a reason why I run those 2 workshops, and I would love to be running those more. So hopefully I can figure out a way to do that. But yeah, I hope that this helps. I hope that this has, created a little thought pattern that perhaps you haven't walked before with yourself, or create some conversations in your everyday life that, lead you to places that you didn't really know you were longing to go. And yeah, we do have a moon in Scorpio coming up, so I would love to, as I do my research on the moon phases and their energetics, to create videos about that and share that with you guys. So if that's something that you'd like to see, let me know. I know there's not a whole lot of people watching these videos right now, but this is commitment to myself and showing up for myself. So if you are out there and if you are listening and you are just silently watching, just drop a little moon in the comments if you'd like to see more of that astrological type of talk. I'm not an astrologer. I do a lot of things intuitively and I do my own research, and so they are more conversations and educational videos, but I would love to share that with you guys. With that being said, I hope you have an amazing day. Treat yourself with love and kindness, and smile at a stranger today, because it might just change your day in this.